Hello, everyone. Welcome. Whether you are joining us for the first time or you're a regular attender, we welcome you. We know you could be a lot of places on a lunchtime on a Tuesday. We're so happy that you joined us today. We are going to have some fun. Raise of hands for those of you that feel like you could learn a little bit about crypto. Um, Maybe that topic has evaded you. Today, we're going to talk about how you can actually integrate the crypto market into your long term retirement plans, into your short term cash flow. We have my friend Lori, who is a fabulous crypto coach, been in the space of the crypto market really since. Lori, you pretty much jumped on the bandwagon, pretty soon after crypto came on the market, Bitcoin came on the market, right? You knew that that was something that you got to get smart about and have dedicated time and energy to help others get smart about it as well. So, friends, we're going to have some fun today. I want to remind you, personally speaking, there is no limit to how much we can learn. Would you agree? Raise of hands for those of you that agree that if we are not learning, we're dying. And
Right.
whatever you decide to do about crypto, the purpose of today is to at least give you a little knowledge about some fundamentals, how you can actually work that into your plan in a very easy way, a very quick and easy way that's not meant to be complicated. Obviously, you could go down the path like Lori has done and really become an expert in this space. This is one asset class that I believe personally in my own life, what I've seen happen in my lifetime. I've never seen anything like it. And I believe that it's not going anywhere. And if we are going to be part of the future economy of our great country, it makes sense to raise our financial IQ around the space. We believe here in our community that also when we partner with a higher power in our lives, we look at life through the lens of Jesus here in our community, whatever lens of faith that you look at life through. We believe that when you partner with that higher power, there's something magical that happens. There's exponential growth that happens. So we're going to talk about how you can do that, continue to do that in your life. So, friends, as you're jumping in, we want to know where you're tuning in from. What do you do for a living? How do you serve your community? This is also a community we like to leverage one another's skills and abilities. So, if you have a business, if you are seeking clients, and you offer something that we're looking for, we want to know about it. So in the chat, please be sure and share with us where you're zooming in from, how you serve your community, how can we get in touch with you. We want to make sure and support you as well in your business. It's nothing greater, in my opinion, personally. My word of the year is leverage. Many of you have heard me talk about my word of the year. And one of the things that I've realized about community is that it's the most special form of leverage. I was on a call earlier today with one of my clients who's becoming a friend. She was in feeling down, she was feeling low, she was between jobs and looking for that next opportunity. Anyone ever been laid off or maybe have a business that hasn't necessarily grown as fast as you would like it to? Maybe you have one of those potential down days that sometimes happens in the entrepreneurial space, right? And sometimes we just need a little boost of how can we help each other? How can we lift one another in life and business? And that's what the conversation was about. We got on the conversation. I was thinking we were going to be talking about the financial products that she was, investing in, that she was planning to do. And it turned into such a greater conversation. I'm going to share an image with you, and I want to just see if this resonates with you, where did it go? It is, has anyone ever seen that image of the iceberg of success by chance? Lori, have you seen that one?
I've seen the cliff. It's like a cliff.
Okay, yeah, I need to
Something, huh?
I need to just share my screen with you
Yes.
for a second. And I want to just talk about this iceberg of success really quickly. So this is the iceberg of success. And this image is probably very overused, obviously, but um, this is what people see, right? This is the awards we're getting, the trophies, the allocates, right? But this is all the things under the iceberg that's happening, the
That's good.
sacrifice, the rejection. Anyone else ever been rejected by chance? How do we fit in, staying healthy, getting our steps in, or moving our bodies, the sleepless nights. Anyone ever have any sleepless nights? Good habits, growth mindset. This image, I think, is one of the things that I love about it, is because when I think of community, when I think of leveraging other people's skills and abilities, that to me, it really takes away a lot of those underlying things that the iceberg of entrepreneurship really has beneath it. And this community is a great example of that. My friend Lori, she has dedicated countless hours to getting smart about crypto. I personally don't really have that desire, nor do I have the time. So I leverage her skills and abilities. In the kingdom, that is what we do. We are all blessed to have skills and abilities that other people don't have, right? And we get to share that. So Lori, we have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
I want to start with just sharing a little bit about, you and I and our relationship, because I think that's important. For those of you that are coming into our community, maybe you've never met me, for example. I was in the financial services world for 30 years. I found people jobs for a living. I worked in two of the highest paid industries in the world, financial services and technology. And I found that most people, quite frankly, it didn't even matter if they were being paid well in these high paid industries, they still didn't earn enough to be financially free. They still were actually always beholden to someone else to create a livelihood for their families, right? And it was startling how many families, even in these high paid sectors, were not prepared for the future, right? We're not prepared. And I believe personally, part of it is that we're so ingrained to be part of this corporate America system. I believe 90% of people should have a job. I don't think the entrepreneurial world is for the faint of heart, but I also believe 100% of people should have more than one income in their portfolio, right? So I have transitioned. I own a financial practice now. I empower other women to actually claim their financial sovereignty by getting smart with money, by building an agency of their own if they choose, or at least leveraging the systems of other people that they've built to create their own economy, a side gig, whatever you want to call it. Now, I have never seen any asset class do what the crypto space has done, but I've also seen fortunes lost. My father was one of them. My dad, he's 81 years old. He worked for 40 years to build a massive legacy for him. This gentleman, my dad never earned more than $70,000 in his lifetime in an annual basis. And yet he amassed over $1 million in his portfolio, through diligent savings, through, always paying himself first. He helped me with really great habits. And, we lost my mom about 5 years ago now. And really, in a lot of ways, he lost himself when she died. And through that, he got caught in some scams. And he lost over $300,000 in
Mhm.
three different crypto scams. Now, my dad is fine. There's still what, 700 left. It's doing things that are going to continue to be plenty for him. But my question for you, friends, is how many people have you known that have gotten caught in a crypto scam, when if they lost that, they would be on the streets, right? So that is one reason that I am so passionate about this space. It is not going anywhere, right, Lori? This is Bitcoin, especially. I know there's a lot of coins. We're going to be learning about the types of crypto today. But would you agree, Bitcoin is not going anywhere? It is here to stay. It's going to be here in some way, shape, or form in our future economy. Would you agree that's the case?
Yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today.
That's what we're here to talk about. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so friends, I'm going to pass the baton to Lori. But one of the things that I want to share with you before we do that is that just a reminder, there's a wonderful quote by Warren Buffett that he talks about having money that you need day to day should not belong in your checking account. I mean, belongs in your checking account. Money that you are planning for the future, retirement planning, should not be in your checking account, right? Would we agree? There's other avenues that should be where your retirement is planned. Now, there's a slide that I'm going to show you, and Lori and I are going to talk about this slide. There's actually two slides that I want to have you consider as we enter this conversation. So most people, if you're like me, I went to college, I got a good job. Right after, I made a fortune in my corporate career. I was very blessed financially. And what's so crazy about that idea right there is, imagine if I was able to do that working for someone else. Imagine what we can do when we work for ourselves, when we have a system that we leverage and we pick an industry that there's a need, right? So in our economy, this was the history of the US stock market. This is the history. One of the reasons that I love the world of finance is because numbers don't lie. They are what they are. And Lori and I talked a couple of weeks ago in one of our workshops about how this decade, this lost decade, really changed. It was like 2009 to 2019. We basically lost in that 1 year. We lost everything that we had gained from 2000 to 2009. They call it the lost decade. And yet we don't call that a scam. Isn't it interesting that we don't call that a scam?
But it
And
is.
so, Lori, we're going to talk about, the next slide I wanted to show you is, in a lot of ways, the price history of Bitcoin. In some ways, it kind of looks similar, so we're going to talk about that. And yet the reality is, many of us are still first of all, very unknowing about the crypto space, and why that gets to change as part of our community as we're growing and learning. So Lori, I'm gonna pass the baton to you, my dear.
Okay.
Lori and I had the blessing to meet about 4 years ago now, through a community of entrepreneurs. And I love everything that she's doing. I trust this woman. She is leading her mission in her organization through the lens of belief that faith is part of our lives. And when we partner with God in our finances, magical things happen. So Lori, thank you in advance for your time, honey. I'm so excited to learn what you've got to share with us today.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for having me here. And thank you all for being here today. And I just wanted to see just if all of you could just type in, when you hear Bitcoin, what do you think? What is it that you think in one word? Some of you might think, oh, it's too technical, it's too fearful, it's too risky. What is it? Because that's going to lead me where I'm going so I can talk to you all here and where you are. Risky is in
We
there a
have we have
couple
a
of
lot of
times.
risk. Yep,
Okay, so opportunity, yes, and
opportunity.
we do know in finances with opportunity comes risk, and with risk comes opportunity. Um, Confusing. Okay, good. So you know what? You're not alone. You're not alone. It took me a good couple of years to really get to know the terminology. And the thing about it, I want you to think back when you've got your first computer. And there are a lot of people that when they got their first computer said, gosh, I don't need a computer at home. I have the library. I can go to the library. I can look it up on I've got a phone book. Why do I need a computer? It just is going to give me an extra bill, the internet bill, right? And so when AOL came out, it was cool because we could chat with our family and friends from anywhere. But you know, there was the main thing that happened when we all got our first computer was that we learned new terms. We had to learn new vocabulary. It was a whole new vocabulary. Just like when you're learning about finances, it's a whole new vocabulary. Same with the real estate. I have a background in real estate. So when you're learning these terms, vocabulary comes with it. Hi, little guy. And so it is something that requires a new vocabulary. And I'm going to share some of it with you today. But I also want to share with you just the mindset because, like Lisa said, she was on the phone with a friend today, and what she thought she was going to talk about was finances. And when I started out doing crypto coaching, here we go. When I started out doing crypto coaching, I thought I would just be talking about finances with people. Well, it turns out that the number one thing that I ended up talking about is the mindset, because the mindset shift is required before anybody's going to be putting any money in crypto. So I'm not here to say, oh, you guys got to go run and invest in crypto right now. Well, I am, but I'm not selling anything. Okay. I'm educating, and I'm an educator. I'm not a financial advisor. And so what I want you to look at is how close do you think we are to the Jetsons? Anybody remember that cartoon, The Jetsons? How close are we? I mean, we have hover vehicles, we have those, you know, the remote controls that deliver packages now. I mean, we have all of those things that are happening in the Jetsons. We have people that are traveling to space. So what did they use for money in the Jetsons? They use digital money. So think about it. Bitcoin is uh, not as much as an investment as it is the future of money, because everything is moving digital. And think about the last time you carried cash. When was the last time anybody carried cash or wrote a check? I actually had to go to the bank and get a check, and I had to ask them for another one because I didn't have any on hand, and I wrote it out wrong because it had been a while since I wrote a check. Everything's on auto pay or everything you do online now, correct? Okay, so I'm here to share with you that it is the future of money. And also another classification. Oh, somebody has cash in their purse. Good. Always carry a little bit of cash in your purse or your wallet. You know, it's always a good sign if you can have $100 bill in there, you know, just you
Did
never know.
anyone did anyone else have a father? My every time I went away to college, he would put me on a plane. He would give me $100 pill and he would say, "Honey, put this in your shoe."
Oh,
I
that
don't
was
know why in my shoe. I have a joke really quick I have to share
you
with
never
you.
know.
Lori, one day Silly Sally was walking down the street and all of a sudden this guy comes up and puts his hands down her pants. And then this other guy comes up and puts his hands up her shirt. But silly Sally just laughed because she knew that her money was in her shoe. Sorry, I just had to put that in.
Ah. Okay, it takes me a little while there. But I'm going to
That's
share with
funny.
you. I'm going to
So
share with
maybe
you
our crypto will be our crypto's not going to be in our shoe, right? It's going to be in a wallet.
No,
And it
and
is.
it
We're
is,
going to
it's a
talk about
digital
that.
wallet. Yeah, and it's a digital wallet, just like it's digital money. So one thing to know about Bitcoin, it is classified by the SEC as a commodity. So can anyone type in the chat, what do you know is a commodity? And perhaps you invest in commodities. Gold, silver, coffee, sugar. These are all staples, right? Oranges. So Bitcoin has already been classified as a commodity, and that happened back in 2020 by the United States, and it is been classified. So we're going to go into some vocabulary before I go into classifications, but I just want to let you know it's in that classification. I can share my screen. Good, good. Here we go. So I've got a little PowerPoint to show you here. So we're going to talk about the 5 types of digital currencies. And when I say digital currencies, well, Bitcoin is just one type, and that's the main type. Because of its classification as a commodity, the US says we can use it as money. Okay, so we need to look at the definitions here because sometimes we intermingle these terms. We hear them all the time. What is money? What is currency? And what is legal tender? Well, money is something accepted as a medium of exchange. And what do we use now? We use the US dollar, right? And the US dollar is backed by, anybody know? The debt of the US. It's not backed by gold, it's backed by the debt of the US. So we use money, our money right now is the US dollar. Now, what is currency? Currency is something that is in circulation as a medium of exchange. So guess what? Bitcoin is in circulation right now at a tune of $2.6 trillion. There are people moving the dollar into Bitcoin right now because they know it's the future of money. So currency is something such as coins, treasury notes, or banknotes. Banknotes, remember, the US dollar is a banknote. It's a IOU, Federal Reserve. So it is used as a medium of exchange. So when you know the difference in those two terms, you're going to understand digital currencies are being used as a medium of exchange right now. And then, whoops, let's go back. Let's go to, where do we go? Legal tender, money that is legally valid as a payment. So of course, our US dollar is legal tender here in the United States. Every country has their own legal tender. And so there have been a couple countries already that have established Bitcoin as their legal tender, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But just to get an idea of where we've been, our monetary system has changed over the years. It has not always been where, why am I flipping through here? I need to go back. The history of our financial technology. Well, in the 1930s is when we started centralized banking. It was during the Roosevelt years. And today they call centralized banking CFI. So these are the new terms you're going to start hearing in the technology world. CFI, centralized finance. And so centralized banking means the Federal Reserve became in charge of all of the banks in the United States, right? And it wasn't always that way. Prior to the 1930s, we had decentralized banking, where all the banks were independent. But now we have the Federal Reserve, the US government created the Federal Reserve to fund the US. So that happened in the 1930s. In the 1950s, the next financial technology we got were credit cards. Wow. And what did our grandparents say? Wow, a credit card, you mean I could put money on a piece of plastic? They were scratching their heads saying, what, that doesn't make any sense, just like everybody's doing today. Wow, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you put money on, why can I go buy a couch on a piece of plastic?
Lori, I have a comment about that as well. Did anyone ever have my grandfather? I come from a family of wheat farmers, and my grandfather, anytime he needed money, he would just take a truckload of wheat to the bank, to the granary.
Commodity.
And he actually resisted credit cards forever. And yet this man had so much in assets. And when he actually went to apply, he was denied because he didn't have a credit history. So isn't it crazy how,
Yeah.
credit cards really have now it's just interesting how our credit, really means that we're bankable, basically, is what the banks want us to believe, right?
Well, and today it gives us a credit score to have credit cards. And then the 1980s, wow, when ATM machines came out, I couldn't believe it. I could take my bank card, my debit card, and I could go into a middle of parking lot where there was a little ATM machine. And I was amazed. I said, wow, I'm going to use it. Look, it was my first ATM transaction. And you could put your card in, and that was amazing. And in the middle of a parking lot, you didn't even have to walk into a bank. Well, now it's just old. We've known it for so long now. We forget that it was a new technology at one time. And then in the 1990s, we got computer technology where people started to get the computer. And we actually had the advent of Amazon, all the online stores. So the online stores came on, and people were starting to input their debit card and credit cards in on the computer and started to buy things online. Online payments, we were able to pay our bills online. So that was computer technology. And now today, and starting in 2009, that's when DeFi, which is decentralized finance, which is what digital currencies are. Most of digital currencies are decentralized. Specifically Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the very first digital currency that came out in 2009. And it is being used, and it is in circulation today. So that's our history, just to show you how far we've come. This is not new when it comes to our transitionary times, but our
Lori,
monetary
Lori,
system.
there's a question in the chat. I
Oh,
wanted
is
to, since we're
okay.
still on the topic of debit and ATM. Casey went by a business and they had a sign saying Bitcoin ATM, buy with cash. Is this valid or legal? And I
Yeah,
know the answer is yes, but I do want to just ask you about that and your
yeah,
opinions, your thoughts about that.
yeah, absolutely. And I would, so what a Bitcoin ATM machine is, and is they charge a lot of money if you buy Bitcoin from there, first of all. So let's say if you were to put in $100 to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, you're probably only going to get about $80 of Bitcoin because of the fees that are associated. So there are high ATM fees, just like a bank ATM, you have ATM fees. But you absolutely, if that's a way you can get started, you can. And again, you want to look at the brand. But a lot of places that carry the Bitcoin ATM machines, they have to go through a compliance. They have to follow rules. They all have compliance officers. They all have to report to the SEC, and they have to follow the money laundering rules. The bank, it's called the Banking for All Act. All of this is something they have to follow to stay in compliance. So yeah,
And I
thank you
think,
for asking that.
Casey, I hope that answered your question. One thing to just be aware of, you think about the evolution of ATMs. Do you remember how it used to be that we could only go to our Wells Fargo or Chase if you didn't want to be charged a fee? Now, have you noticed that even the fees of ATMs are much less? However, when you think about the ATM is a business itself, right? And so you are going to be paying more. Some companies I'm seeing, Amazon is now accepting Bitcoin. That is also, I believe, a sign that you could be part of a scam too. This is how they got my father, for example. He had exhausted the ways of actually transferring crypto because he was kicked out of too many exchanges. So they had him go to an ATM, deposit, $10,000 into a Bitcoin ATM that they were then able to transfer. So, I think it's important to know that it can be used as a tool, even a legitimate Bitcoin ATM, right, Lori? it
Yeah,
can be used
so
as a tool for scammers, right?
yeah, so there have been, and one of the things I did for a couple of years because I wanted to really know some of the scams that were out there so I could share with you all on what's a scam and what isn't. Remember, it wasn't the ATM that was a scam. It was the person who gave them their Bitcoin or their cryptocurrency address to send them the money through the ATM. So if you are being told to go to an ATM and send money to a certain Bitcoin address or a crypto address and it's not yours, chances are the person you're working with is scamming you because they already have an account at the ATM. You can just send money to somebody else's Bitcoin wallet in the ATM. So just know, you want to know how to operate it, and that's part of the educational process, isn't knowing, okay, am I creating my own account or am I sending this to somebody else's account? Because you don't ever want to send it to somebody else's account, especially if you haven't sat down, you haven't met with them, or they're not one of the legitimate companies, which we'll talk about here. Now, Lisa, my slide presentation, I just want to know how much time I have.
Yeah, we usually meet for an hour, but
Okay.
I can stay longer today. Obviously,
Okay.
others we all have a schedule
All
we're
right.
adhering to, but I would like to stay and get as long as as
Well,
maybe an hour and a half, if that if we go to 12:30 or
I
sorry,
will
1:30.
I will make it work, and
Okay.
I can go through the presentation, no problem. So let's get this back up here. So now we went through the history. Let's look at our, oh, mm, I skipped this one. Our monetary system history. So back in the 1870s to 1934, the dollar was backed by gold. Okay. Then the Federal Reserve was created. When the Federal Reserve was first created in 1913, they were decentralized. And so the Federal Reserve is still in effect today. However, the government took over during Roosevelt and the New Deal, and that's when the banks became centralized, and the Federal Reserve was the one that was funding the government, the central banks. So we have the centralized banks starting in the 1930s. Then we noticed that that wasn't working because the dollar was getting devalued. It was right in between the two world wars that we saw that happen. And then by 1944, we needed to have the dollar come back up again. We were in severe inflation in the 30s. And then in Bretton Woods system is where we got the dollar back again by gold. However, it wasn't gold in our money. It was us saying, or it was the US saying, yes, we have gold in Fort Knox and we have enough gold to back our dollar again. So that's where they started to hand out gold certificates and silver certificates in the money, and actually had our coins were being made with silver in it, and even some gold coins as well. So that was all the way until 1971. In 1971, then the Bretton Woods system stopped again, and the dollar stopped being backed by gold. And it has been backed by debt since the 1930s, our actual physical instrument. So our physical instrument is a dollar's paper. It's just a special paper. If you were to rip it up, tear it up in pieces, it wouldn't be worth anything. It's paper. So it is backed by the debt. Now, what does that mean? Well, some people call the dollar today fiat currency. So if you hear the term fiat currency, that means it's our dollar's backed by debt. The more debt that Americans get into, the more debt, more credit card debt, the more home loans, car loans, then the more money is printed. Money is only printed when there's debt. So whenever you will go out and get a loan, it initiates the printing press. So we wonder why we have so much printing press, because lots of people are funding their lifestyles through loans today and through leverage of loans. And so that's the fiat currency. It's not backed by an asset, it's backed by debt. And Lisa shared this slide already. And what this shows is I started doing the coaching back in 19 and 20. And I said, hey, everybody, you got to buy Bitcoin. You have to buy Bitcoin. It was around $10,000. It was around actually, it was around 3,000 again, sometime around here in February of 2020. Because of COVID, it dropped. And then it increased from in 2020 to 2021, it went up to the highest mark. Now, remember, Bitcoin is fairly new money. So anything that's new, whether it's a new product, anything that's new is volatile. Okay, anything. A relationship, a house, we have some volatility in our lives when we have something new, right? Even if we get a new, the air fryer, setting that up in your kitchen, all of that, anything new is volatile. So know that we are still in a very new phase, and there's some ups and downs, but there isn't a long-term upward trend. And the upward trend from when it was, Bitcoin was created back here in 2009 and 2010. Does anybody remember what was going on in 2009 and 2010? We had the collapse of the central banking system. In 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, the central banking system ended up closing the doors of over 1,500 banks nationwide. We had the real estate collapse. We had the secondary market collapse. We had government bailouts. That's when we had $4 billion bailouts that was happening to the large Bear Stearns financial companies so that they could support all of their patrons. And it was the fallout of the central banking system where the dollar basically collapsed. And the technologists at that time said, no more. We're going to be self-sovereign. We can't rely on this central banking system that's backed by debt. Look at what's happening to everybody's debt. They're foreclosing, they're losing their cars, they're not having any jobs, they're not making any money, nobody's borrowing, nobody's buying. So what they saw was the financial system is changing. And the backed by debt worked for a while. But because so many people are relying on it, the dollar has devalued itself because of its massive printing that's happened over the years. So back here in 2009 and 10, the technologists said, we are going to launch this digital currency, this decentralized currency, and we're going to put it in circulation. And let's see if it works, if people are going to start buying it, because it has value when it goes into circulation, right? That's how money is created. It's valued by its currency, by how many people are using it. So since then, if we just look at the straight curve up, it's had a upward trend. For investment purposes, it's not too late. Here we are now. The innovators, this is start of 2009. We are still in early adoption phase. And now we're climbing the ladder here because a lot of the majority is starting to come on board. When you look at Wall Street, people are understanding this is not going away. This is the future because it's digital. And I'm going to tell you, I have a slide that's going to tell you why it's so reliable as well, long-term reliability. So there's an opportunity to make a lot of money here in the next year and a half to 2 years, 3 years. I would say by the time we get to 2030, 2035, that's when we're going to start to level out. And that's going to be over here on this side. So we have a point in time here to really double your wealth when you move dollars into Bitcoin, because what will we be spending in the future? We'll be spending digital currency. We won't be spending paper money. It just is what's happening. Think about all the kids that are born with technology that are 35 and under that transact with a QR code, read their menus on a QR code. They don't even go and they download the Chime app or the online banking apps. They don't even go to a bank because the bank fees are too much. Those bank fees are too much to even have a bank account anymore. So, uh,
And I think one thing to note, it's no longer, it doesn't have to be super confusing anymore. Lori, I'm going to share
oh,
about the group I work with, Swan. You can open a Bitcoin IRA, a Bitcoin Roth IRA now. It's different though than what I'm seeing a lot of now. Financial advisors are able to, or you personally can get like a Bitcoin ETF. Can you touch on the difference there? Because I think it's
yeah.
important to note the difference there.
Yeah. So, what's really important in this movement is to know that when you hold your own coins, then you own them. There are a lot of ETFs and a lot of funds and a lot of exchanges that are coming on board, which is a place where you can buy it. But you want to ask, can I off ramp it? Can I take it off the chain, off of their exchange or out of their ETF and move it into my own digital wallet? And that's what ETFs don't do. So the fund, let's say Fidelity Investments or Grayscale, they're very large ETF companies. They're the funds that are buying up a bunch of Bitcoin right now, raising the price. And they're the ones that are going to sell it to the retail investors. Now, the retail investors are going to hold their money in the fund, but the fund still owns the Bitcoin. The retail investor does not. Okay. Just like if you don't hold the gold, you don't own the gold. That's why they call Bitcoin digital gold. All right. So that's the difference. Now, Coinbase is a #1 US exchange. Now, this is a place to go in and purchase cryptocurrency, but I highly recommend once you can connect your bank account with Coinbase, you can connect your bank account with Swan, but this is just showing you how many people are starting to use it in the millions from when they just started up. So it's a fairly new company and the amount of users is crazy. It just continues to grow. And so you're going to see this is going to continue to grow. This is just a short-term slide because it's broken down by quarters, but it is showing you how many people are opening up exchange accounts. The exchange is a place where you exchange your dollars for crypto. It's not a place to hold it. It's an exchange because the exchange, just like the ETF, they're the ones that own the coins. Okay. So this is a good number to look at. Now, the 5 types of digital currencies today. Bitcoin is one. Cryptocurrencies is another. Even though we say cryptocurrency when we refer to Bitcoin, it is, I'm going to tell you the difference between the two. And then the next one is an NFT. Then there's stable coins and CBDCs. And CBDCs are what our central banks are going to get involved with. And everybody's going to think it's a wonderful thing to do because central bank digital currency is going to be tied to the Federal Reserve. Okay. And or whichever bank it's going to be tied to. So we'll touch on all of these. I'm going to fly through them because there's a lot of information. And just know that we could do a follow-up. I don't know, Lisa, if we can record this so that
We're
everybody.
recording and
Oh,
we
okay.
are going to, we're definitely going to schedule a follow-up, as people are interested for sure to go
Okay,
deeper. I
good.
feel like this gets to be like a 2-part class, because there's only so much time, right?
Yes. Now, first, before I go into any of them, you need to know what a digital ledger is because a digital ledger is what makes decentralized finance so reliable. Remember, decentralized is DeFi, which is what cryptos and Bitcoin are. and it's decentralized digital finance. So a ledger, anybody know what a ledger is? Or you keep track of your checkbook, you keep track of your debits and credits, what's going in, what's going out, you create a budget. So
I think
as
of the image of Ebenezer Scrooge with his big book and,
yeah, it's our
all
big
the
financial
numbers.
book. We keep track of our records, what comes in, what goes out every month, right? That's what we're all supposed to do. And that's what the banks are supposed to do too. However, that didn't happen in 2009. The banks were scratching their heads and said, wow, how come this CEO went from making $1 million to $1 billion a year? Because the ledger and the books, they could erase a zero or they could add a zero anytime they wanted to. There was no checks and balance. And that's one thing about the US Constitution is it's so important that we have our checks and balances. And those were thrown out the window in 2009, 2010. So the checks and balances is here with the digital ledger technology. That is called blockchain technology. So you might hear the term DLT, and DLT, the digital ledger, says it's already keeping track of the transactions for you. At any given point in time, I can go back and look at the blockchain. And I did this when I was working the forensics and the scams. I could go back in the blockchain and I could look and see where that transaction took place with a Bitcoin address. Now, remember, when you own your own Bitcoin, you have your own Bitcoin address. It's like your own Bitcoin account number. If you give your money to somebody else and let them take care of your money and say, here, Mr. Financial Advisor, will you invest my money in Bitcoin? Well, that financial advisor is going to say, absolutely, because they're going to use their Bitcoin address. Okay. Now we will be able to see their Bitcoin address, but we're not going to be able to see whose money they're using. That's the downfall on an ETF. But what the digital ledger technology or the blockchain technology does, it provides a chain of history of records. So a digital record of all transactions becomes transparent, reliable, and everybody can see the transaction. The public can see the transactions. So if you're really interested in seeing the running transactions for Bitcoin or Ethereum, you can go to blockchain.com and you can look at the running list of transactions. And if you're really interested in seeing how many people are buying, you could see sometimes, some big purchases are going in there right now. You see people that are buying at $10, $50, but there's 500,000, 3 million going in from USD over to cryptocurrency. Yeah.
Well,
So
and one thing I think is important to note is that it's not unlike the stock market in the sense that you can buy $10 worth of Bitcoin. You can buy, $20 a week in Bitcoin, just like you can in certain stock portfolios. But I think, and that's one thing I want to make sure people realize is that it doesn't matter how small you start. I want to encourage you to start in some way, shape, or form because of the future of what this means for all of us, right, Lori?
right. So think about this, $100 worth of groceries. What did that buy you 4 years ago? $100 worth of groceries. You could
Yeah.
probably fill your cart, maybe get 4 bags of groceries or 5. Now $100 of groceries might get you 2 bags or 3 bags of groceries. So think about the dollar and the decline of the dollar that we've all experienced with inflation. Now, if you had put that money into Bitcoin and you saw the trend, how much more groceries could you buy? So that's the mindset to think of is deflationary. Bitcoin is deflationary, meaning that in the future, you're going to have more money to buy more things. Okay, that's why people are moving their dollar over to digital currency because the value is going up. It's deflationary. Okay, so what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer payment system to facilitate instant payments, and it is instant. I can send Lisa Bitcoin right now and she'll get it, through a QR code, and she'll get it within a minute, 1 minute. I don't have to go to the bank. I don't have to get a wire fee. I don't have to pay a wire fee. I can just send it through a QR code to Lisa from my wallet to her wallet. And it uses something called cryptography. Cryptography is the same thing we use in our email system. When you draft an email and you send an email to somebody, it's called encrypted mail. And so that's the same root word there, because it scrambles up, it gets sent over the lines, and only the person that you sent it to can see it. Hopefully. That's the intention, right? But this one uses secure cryptography. And Bitcoin offers lower transaction fees than banks, borderless payments, meaning you can send it to anybody in the world, and immutable transactions, meaning that if I send $10 to Lisa, Lisa's going to receive $10. It's not going to be minus the $35 wire fee. And then a digital ledger, which we went over already, and a decentralized systems of checks and balances. So the cryptography of Bitcoin is made to have a built-in check and balance, meaning that there are 5 checkpoints that a Bitcoin or any of the crypto has to go through. So if I'm sending in a QR code to Lisa, $10, there's 5 checkpoints it has to go through to get to Lisa. The 5 checkpoints are individuals using the Bitcoin system or individual organizations that say, yes, this is a valid transaction. Yes, this is a valid transaction. So they have to verify within the cryptography. It's built in. So that's why you don't need a banker looking at, because you already have 5 checkpoints, and it's basically a democratic money is what it is that you have 5 people validating it. If one person or one organization says, no, this looks like a scam, this looks like it's not real, they will not send the money. If I don't have $10 in my wallet, it will not get sent to Lisa. It will get denied. Okay, so you have to be holding it in your own wallet in order for it to be verified, and I can send it directly to Lisa. So we don't need an intermediary anymore. We don't need a broker anymore. That's one of the things that Bitcoin does, is it kind of takes out the middleman, because the checks and balances is in the blockchain. Okay, it's in the technology. Bitcoin was also classified as money in 2020. Kind of slid under the radar when COVID was the big news in July of 2020. Yes, it is legal. It's not illegal. It's also a crypto commodity like gold and silver. And here's the big news. There are only 21 million. So there can only ever be 21 million. That means it is absolutely deflationary. It can't go on the printing press like the dollar. So you can buy 0.00000001 of a Bitcoin if you wanted to. You can go down in the denominations. Now, what's the lowest denomination we have in our current system? A penny, 1 penny, which is 0.01. But now if we're digitized, we can go down a lot lower amount, meaning that we have more money for more people in the future.
And I want you to just pause and think about this for a moment, okay? One of the things that I do every single day is I sit down with families and I go through what's coming in and what's going out. And do you know how much Starbucks is getting of our hard-earned dollars? Have you considered how much, maybe it's juice plus, maybe it's, some sort of juice in the morning, a bagel on the way at the local donut shop, whatever it is. Dunkin' Donuts gets a lot of my daughter's money. I want you to just pause for a moment and think, what if every family started taking a couple of those coffees and buying Bitcoin every week, right? Imagine the power that that could generate in their own life and wealth building.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Well, the joke is it's not called Starbucks anymore. It's called $5.
That's good.
So,
I haven't
so
heard that.
two countries have already adopted Bitcoin as their legal tender, and that is El Salvador and Central African Republic. Now there is an island called Satoshi Island over in the close to the Fiji Islands, and they are also transacting in Bitcoin or Satoshis. Satoshis is the lower denomination of Bitcoin, just so you know. That's what most people will be transacting in the future is Satoshis. They call it sats. If you've heard of sats, maybe you hear it from the kids, like, hey, you want some sats, or I'm going to buy some sats. The sats are the smaller denomination of Bitcoin. So right now we're talking Bitcoin. It is already at what is it today? It's about 57,000. It's a little too much for somebody to buy a whole Bitcoin, especially if they're 30. But can they buy sats? Yes. And that's what people want to focus on, is stacking the sats. Yes, it's a whole new vocabulary, but it's here. Stacking the
And Lori,
sats.
I have a question about that for a second. I personally I do daily buys in my account.
Oh.
I have a set amount that I want to do on a monthly basis, but I do it daily. Can you speak for a second about what's the benefit of daily buys versus maybe monthly or, annual, things like that?
I guess it's your price point or your average. We
Yeah.
have an average cost. You could look at your average cost.
Mhm.
So that's up to you. I think it's up to every household of how often they can contribute. So if somebody gets paid every 2 weeks, I think that makes sense to put a little bit in, $5 or $10 or $100 every paycheck. If somebody gets paid by commission, I would say to put in, to pay yourself first, put what you can afford to put away and hold. You remember, this is a long term. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. This is long term hold. So I would say the advantages are, based on, what you can afford to contribute in your
Yeah.
budgeting. Yeah.
And I mean, it's just the highest form of dollar cost averaging that any
Yeah.
401k does as well. It's just the ability to buy daily. I think personally, what I've learned, because the market is volatile, it really does sort of even it out a little bit more.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
thank you. There have been talks of Panama, Nigeria. Nigeria's economy has shifted because there's a lot of people in Nigeria that are active in Bitcoin. Malaysia as well. Malaysia is a very high tech uh, country. And so if anybody's ever traveled over there, you will see it makes the US look like a third world country. But it's very high tech. So digital currency is really coming aboard a lot sooner. And then also the UAE has announced their own currency in digital currency. So we're going to see a lot of countries jump on board over the next few years. One of the big news, or two of the big news we had was Saudi Arabia and China have decided that they're no longer going to be buying the US Treasury notes. And so that takes the US dollar. We'll start to see the effects in that because those are our largest investors in our country. And that was really how we kept our US Treasury notes really healthy, by the foreign investors. So we'll see. The reason why is because there are beliefs that the digital currency is going to provide a better return than the US dollar. Okay. Now, cryptocurrency is a second type, and I kind of will go through the next four very quick. It's a digital form of currency. It uses the blockchain technology. It relies on cryptography, so it prevents counterfeit and fraudulent transactions. And it may or may not be a central issuing authority. So what does that mean? That means that some cryptocurrencies are centralized and some aren't. Some are decentralized. So they're not yet classified with the SEC. And you might have heard the term altcoins. altcoins or alternative coins are anything but Bitcoin. So there's Bitcoin and then there's altcoins. All the other coins are altcoins, and that's cryptocurrency. So some examples, and I will tell you, if you're really curious, you want to go look at all the 2,000, 4,000 cryptocurrencies that are out there, you can go to coinmarketcap.com, and they're listed by order of their market supply or by order of their investment. And Bitcoin is still the dominant with most people investing in Bitcoin because it was created as a peer-to-peer money or transaction system. All coins have to have a purpose. So if you're interested in learning about the purpose of all these, here's one: XRP, Ethereum, ADA, SOL, and SHIB, which is Shiba coin, which I like. It's just a little cartoon character, and you can buy it for 0.0007 cents. It's just fun
I
money.
have some Shiba. I like Shiba.
Shiba coin,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Lori, I'm gonna pause for a minute.
Okay.
And just for those of you that do need to jump off, we're gonna probably go another 10 minutes, but if you do need to jump off, I wanted to make sure you were aware of two things coming up. Next week is our next challenge, and you should have received your information about the challenge coming up. And we are going to do a different format next week. It's going to be from 10 to 1, just a 1 day for the next couple of summer months. So join us next week. And you also, if you have friends that you want to join us, make sure you get your affiliate link. There's directions that went out. I think this weekend, our team sent it out this weekend to get your own affiliate and share the good news with others. And some of a lot of people have been asking, what do you do, Lisa, in the crypto space? By the way, I have been scammed as well. I personally work with a group that's based out of Los Angeles. They're called Swan. They have an actual location. I can visit. I can meet with the advisor. It's somebody that is a real person. And that is the company that I personally work with. They're called Swan, and I think let me see, I have a link. Here's the link. They'll give you $10 free Bitcoin if you want to open it. That's the place that I recommend. I put the link in the chat as well. So I just wanted to pause for those of you that need to jump off and do that. Make sure you can leverage those events coming up. So Lori, we'll take another 10 minutes, and we definitely need to schedule a second class because I realize we're not going to get to the wallet creation that we wanted to
No,
today. So we'll make sure and
no.
have you back in a couple of weeks.
Well, let's see here. So let me go from the current slide where I left off. So cryptocurrency. Now the third type is called an NFT. The NFT, you might have heard of NFTs. These are called non-fungible tokens. This is where artists or musicians can actually get in the blockchain and not have anybody steal their stuff. And so the same thing with titles and deeds and licenses. They can all be put on the blockchain today. Remember, the blockchain is nothing but a digital chain of records. So anybody that wants to protect their artwork and make money from their artwork or their music, it can be put on the blockchain in an NFT form. So they're selling a token. Or they're tokenizing their data is what it is. So if we go, any data can be an NFT. So there are online marketplaces that can actually sell the music, the artwork. And by the way, here is one of the most famous artworks called the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Now, I don't know if anybody can guess how much this artwork sold for, but it was created it was tokenized, this artwork, and it was a group of monkeys, different monkeys doing different things. And these are selling upward in the millions because they are in the NFT form. I know, it's unbelievable. But because it's a craze, and because people are rushing to put data on the blockchain because we know it's reliable, it's accurate, and it cannot be tampered with. The person who originally puts it on the blockchain is the person who owns it. Okay, so if you have some music or some artwork, you have a family member that's a starving artist, you tell them they can put their work on the blockchain and they will always make perpetual money on it. No matter whoever downloads their NFT, they will continue to make money on it for life. So an NFT does not leave the blockchain. And it cannot be fractionalized, so it has to be sold as the whole token. I did it. I put a title to my property on the blockchain last year when I was selling it, and I made an NFT out of my title of my property. So it was kind of fun to go through the process. I didn't do it myself. I leverage my leverage my business like Lisa. Now the next is the stable coin. The stable coin is, how many of you think it's just way too volatile to get involved in cryptocurrencies? A stable coin is a class of cryptocurrencies that attempts to offer price stability and backed by the reserve asset. So there are several stable coins that you can buy that are in cryptocurrency form. They're in digital asset form. They're pegged to the dollar. And if you see that your portfolio gets a little shaky, you don't have to transfer your cryptocurrency back to your bank account. You can move it into a stable coin such as USDC or USDT. There's several different, here we go. Here's a couple examples. DAO, the DAO. So all of these are just a digital placeholder when you're converting dollars. So let's say that you have Bitcoin on the exchange and you see somebody is, or the price of Bitcoin is sliding down and you want to hold on to where you are at the price point. You can always just transfer your Bitcoin to a stable coin. So then it holds its value in dollars. You don't have to move it all the way back to your bank account, and you can keep it and trade right there in the exchange or in your wallet. So that's a stable coin. And then the next is called a CBDC. A CBDC is a central bank digital currency. And the central bank digital currency, is a digital token similar to cryptocurrency, but it's issued by a central bank. Now, I'm telling you, the Federal Reserve has created a new payment system called the FedNow. Has anybody heard of that one? The FedNow payment system?
It's
Well,
basically like a federal version of like Venmo, isn't it?
yes, but it is their rollout of attempting to create their digital currency.
Okay,
So, yeah.
interesting.
And so, remember, if you could buy Bitcoin on Venmo or PayPal or Amazon, remember, they're the ones that own that Bitcoin until you take it off of those platforms. Those are centralized platforms, just like a central bank. They own it. So that's what happens here. Let's say you trade your dollars, your paper dollars in for a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. You're still going to have a dollar in digital form. That's all it is. It's going to put your dollar in digital form. So it's going to be pegged to the value of the country's fiat currency or the country's legal tender. Now, there are a few places that have already done this, and I got to add AUE on this, or UAE on this, because the United Arab Emiratis, they just announced their CBDC. They're very advanced in technology. The sand dollar is what the Caribbean Bank actually created in their CBDC. And then it digitizes all transactions. Now, this is what people don't like about it. Remember what I told you about digitized transactions? We have a ledger, a digital ledger. Everybody can see it. So that means if we go to central bank digital currency, which is still centralized and it's digital, this is rhetorical, can the government surveil your spending and what you spend your money on? And that's the big question. That's the ethical question with the CBDCs. However, there's a lot of people that like the idea of the CBDCs because there's safety in our dollar. If you've had that experience, then there's safety in the dollar. For me, I've had safety in Bitcoin. I have seen a lot of scams in the dollar. I've had an IRA. I invested the dollar in the IRA from my life savings back when I was 35, and I had that taken from me.
And
So
Lori,
that
I
was,
think that's a great place to actually, wrap for the day,
yeah, that's a
because I
great place. We
think
went through
I
the
think
five.
that's a great avenue to actually segue into the next session that we'll do, which I believe let's you and I schedule. We'll see if we can do it in a couple of weeks from now, because this is let's keep the main thing the main thing. First of all, our goal is to continue to get smart about how money works, right? And generally speaking, we all believe that the Bitcoin space is going to be here for the foreseeable future. For our lifetime, it's here, right? And so the reality is we get to continue to grow in wisdom.
Yes.
The more wisdom we seek, what do we say? The fewer miracles we need in life, right? So, Lori, this has been absolutely wonderful. I know we
Thank
didn't
you.
get to half as much as we planned to.
Oh,
And
we
I,
did
I
good.
know
We
there's
got through all
there,
five,
but I
so
think we did pretty good. I think we
we
did
did
pretty
really
good.
good. Yes. So
So,
thank you
friends,
all for having me. I appreciate
so
it.
good, Lori. And let's you and I definitely connect
Sounds
on the
good.
next session. We can get on the calendar maybe a couple of weeks from now if you're available.
I'm not going to be
We'll
available,
coordinate.
but
That's right. You're
we'll
going to be
chat.
out.
So
We'll chat.
anyway, yeah.
We'll get this Bitcoin chapter 2 session on the books. So, Lori, now you do also have your own community that if people want to go deeper with you personally, what's the best way to connect with you and, get to know more about your community and what you do?
Yeah, so I do crypto coaching, and then I also have a website. Let me put the website in here, and you can actually schedule something with me on my website too. It's my
Perfect.
uh
Perfect. And remember, friends, I am definitely not the expert. I know what I know. But the good thing is I know who knows what I don't know. So that's all I need to know. And so
we
definitely if you're looking to seek wisdom in the space, make sure that you go to a trusted source, which
yes.
that is really, really important in this space for sure.
Absolutely,
Uh,
and if you think you're involved in a scam or you wanna get involved and you don't know if it's a scam, please do reach out to me. I would love to hear
Absolutely.
from you. I will let you know right away if it's a scam or not. So,
And
and
she
I'll
can literally tell you in probably 5 minutes with a few
yeah, yeah.
questions. So she's helped my own family in that space. So I so appreciate you, my
Oh, thank
friend.
you.
I wish we had lots more time, but we'll make sure we get together back again, maybe in August and July, once the summer craziness settles down for everybody. Blessings
Alright.
to you, my dear. Blessings,
Blessings.
everyone, in this
Blessings.
amazing life journey. We will see you
Bye-bye.
soon.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.